Welcome back to Keeping Ag Real. This is Jenny Schweigert. I'm a mom, wife, chauffeur, sheep and cattle herder, front porch obsessor, and your host. Welcome back to Keeping Ag Real. Today's guest is a mom of 4. She's wrangled roosters and lives downtown Chicago. Please welcome Natasha Nicholes. Hi, Natasha.
Hi, Jenny. Thank you so much for having me today.
Well, thank you. I've been wanting to do this for some time now. You have definitely a unique perspective than most of my guests, and it's a perspective that I'm really trying to kind of dig more into and try to, understand everybody's views. In recent years, become pretty involved with the agriculture community. Before that occurred, though, what was your impression of farming and food?
What my impression of it was actually pretty neutral. I come from family that comes from farms, from the state of Mississippi, both on my mom and dad's side. My dad's side, my grandmother, lived in a farm, and she and her siblings were responsible for helping their sharecropper parent harvest and everything, and then go and sell things at market in town. And with my mom's side, mostly all of her aunts and uncles own farmland in Mississippi still to this day. So whenever we would go down and visit, I would kind of marvel at the fact that they were able to kind of go outside for dinner and get whatever they were going to get, and then we'd have this wonderful spread on the table for dinner or for lunch. And so I think I've always had this kind of dormant desire to learn more about food because of my familial connections with it.
Sure. How did you get involved then? Was that through the Illinois Farm Families?
It was my first full foray into learning more about farming and where the food actually, how it's processed when it's harvested, did come from the Illinois Farm Family through Illinois Farm Bureau. But Chicago is a pretty foodie town in general. So every year they have a conference called the Good Food Festival. I'm sure you can imagine that with the title like Good Food Festival, they focus on, things like clean eating and GMO-free and organic. But when we went, it was nice to see that different viewpoints were welcomed.
Oh.
I'm not sure that they were. I'm not sure that they were embraced as strongly by the attendees, but there was a presence there. My husband and I attended one year, and that kind of ignited our interest in chicken keeping. And that's when we found out that in Chicago you could keep chickens, and that there were a bunch of chicken keepers in Chicago, and it was kind of this whole underground movement. Because a lot of people didn't realize that, in Cook County, you are able to freely keep chickens and other livestock. Not that we would move to that, but all of this kind of came together.
Sure.
And if anyone knows me, they know once I get an idea in my head or something piques my interest, then I do a lot of research with it. And so when Illinois Farm Families came through with their City Moms program, I jumped right on it and applied. And I was accepted into the second class, I believe. I believe it was the second class. And I had a blast. I'm still kind of sad that I didn't get to go to the dairy farm I think they visited a chicken farm as well and saw processing or something like that I missed out on as well. So
was that when Blog Her was up in Chicago?
Yes,
I think?
it was.
Okay. I think that was that the first time that we met? That's been a number of years ago. And Renee.
Yes. Renee Red Bill Keats, yes.
Yes, I think we met both of you. I don't think that we got to spend as much time with you as our group did with Renee, and then Ree Drummond was there. She did a nice shout out to all of the farm and ranch women that were out in the audience, which was nice as well. But yeah, I do remember that because I remember that you guys were really bummed about not being able to go to the dairy farm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'll get you connected. We'll get you all fixed up because that's kind of my area there. Before we move away from the chickens, you've got to tell the story about the neighbors.
About the rooster that hates me with a passion.
Yes.
Okay, 2 years ago, we got our first chickens, and huge hens. We ended up buying them from someone else, but only after we were gifted with 4 hens from Harry Connick Jr. himself. It was really nice to start that with someone who also has root in farming and food and everything.
And the South as well.
Yes, yes. My neighbor decided that he would get hens as well, which was cool. His hens, however, have free roam of the neighborhood, so it wasn't it wasn't it wasn't strange to come outside and see a random chicken in your yard. And what's hilarious is, for a while, our family was known as the only family with chickens in the neighborhood. So his chickens would be roaming, and of course, my husband or I would get a phone call. Hey, Natasha, we see your chickens. And I'm like, I guarantee you, those are not my chickens at all. So he did some finagling of his fencing and everything, but then he got a rooster. And I don't, as much as I enjoy living in the city, I don't like random noise. So I don't like roosters crowing. We have a dog who I fuss at often for just randomly barking when cars drive down the street. He just goes crazy and barks. And then he gives me the look of, I'm just trying to save your life and you're not appreciating me at all. But the rooster would get out and get into we have an urban farm of sorts, a quarter acre right across the street from us. And the rooster would get out and have lots of fun with my girl. And, and you know, I'm a blogger by trade, so that's my job full time. And I'd be sitting at my desk and looking out the window, and you know, for people who have chickens, they know that hens present themselves to the roosters. And all I know is I looked outside and he was going from hen to hen. So we had to have a conversation with my neighbor. And once that stopped, the rooster got out maybe one or two more times. And the last time he got out, he paraded across the street and sat right in front of my house and let out the biggest crow that I've ever heard before in my life. So it's literally like sitcom material where, you know, yeah, this rooster knows that I don't like him, so he does everything that he can in order, you know, to bug me. But lately I haven't. So either I've gotten used to him crowing, because I know he's still there. I've seen him, or he just doesn't crow as often. Maybe he's getting older and preparing to become someone's wonderful bird.
Instapot
for dinner. Yeah, and you know that doesn't make me happy. So I don't hate him to the point of where, hey, go and slaughter him. The only thing that gave me pause was that my neighbor stated that he got the rooster because he wanted more protein in his eggs.
Oh.
Back where he lived, I think that's where what his dad told him. I gave kind of a slow blink to him, but then I'm younger as well, so it was kind of like, oh, you young people just don't know what you're doing at all. So it's quite interesting. Teachable moments for a lot of the community members, because they often wondered why I didn't have any roosters, but I had eggs to sell.
Oh, awesome.
You need a rooster. And I said, no, you don't need a rooster. So a lot of times, because I do have a biology background, that's what I majored in undergrad. And I kind of break it down in birds and the bees ways with adults, and then they can pass it on to their children as they see fit, because I'm pretty frank with my children. And, you know, I equated the hen being like, you know, women. We have eggs. We don't really need a guy in order, you know, to have an egg pass through or whatever. And that's essentially what the chickens are doing. However, if we want to have a baby, then we do need the guy to come through. And that's as deep as I got with them, because I do have younger children.
Kids, yes.
But the adults that did come through, I did let them know that was the case, and that hens are born with all the eggs that they will ever lay in life. Rooster be darned, we don't need one in order to enjoy the egg at all.
Right.
And we've had the bleaching versus brown eggs moment, and how all of the eggs in the grocery store are bleached. So we had a couple of people who were buying from me just because of that. And I had to break that to them too, that the grocery stores do not bleach their eggs. It's just the variety of chicken that they have.
Farmers nitpicking at one another. Recently, there was a list. There's all these lists. I'm tired of lists.
The list.
The list. I have been, and I messaged you, I mean, I was completely flabbergasted, embarrassed at some of the things that were said to you. And be completely brutally honest, what was your first thought when people were kind of coming at you because you were on that list, but you're not a farmer?
So I've been a blogger for almost 10 years now.
Mm-hmm.
The online community is a very fickle community, and that aspect of my job prepared me for, I guess, what happened, because I woke up to like 700 notifications, and I'm not even that popular of a blogger. I've never woken up to notifications over, probably on a good day, like a semi-viral day for me, never woken up to notifications over maybe 99, right? That's the top. So when I see this and I'm going through it, I'm like, oh, okay, this is pretty interesting. And then we had some people, one individual stated, and they're thanking the list maker as if they won an Academy Award. I didn't see any of that. I saw, oh, somebody notices that I talk about ag stuff. It's kind of nice to be noticed, right? It's kind of cool. This is neat. And then it just kept going on and on. And, then it then it devolved into telling people what they could do with chickens and bulls and everything. And I let out a chuckle then. So it wasn't that I was so surprised, but I think we apply adjectives to certain people based on how we see them in our head. So
Right.
when you think of a certain group of individuals, you automatically think super nice, right? Because in order to get out early in the morning, 4:00 in the morning, and tend to a field of food that you're not even going to consume on your own, you should be nice. Like, you should be a really nice person. And to see that they're not, and even checking Twitter feed, you see the worst of the worst. And I'm glad to know that I've grown accustomed to realizing that they're an exception and not the rule for online personalities and for farmers, because every farmer that I've met so far has been very cordial. And, even if our views differed, there was no rudeness that came. And then I think with being behind a screen gives people, a little bit more gumption to say things that they probably wouldn't say to people in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And for some people, it hurts them when they're not recognized. And someone made a very good point in the midst of conversations, because the conversation died down and we got kind of into why we do what we do and who we are and all of that other stuff. And someone says, I don't consider myself an advocate. And I didn't realize that there was a term like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm a farmer talking to other farmers or talking to other people in agriculture. And those aren't the people that we need to be. We know what our jobs do. We know what our jobs consist of. If you want to be a great advocate for the agricultural portion of the world, you have to talk to people who aren't in it.
Exactly.
And that's what the people on this list are doing. They're educating people who are not necessarily in the environment. And then they're also not only educating them, but they're also keeping in touch with us. So they're the go-between. And when someone put that in perspective, then I was like, oh, okay, yeah. I guess it was great for me to be on this list, but then to see that I was number one. And when I saw that I was number one, and then I saw the clout score, and I was like, oh, that's the only reason. It's because I talk a lot.
Don't worry. Even though it has stopped abruptly, there is more conversation with Natasha on future episodes. Be watching for the bonus episodes, which will be coming out in the next day or so. Thank you again for listening to Keeping Ag Real, and look forward to hearing more from Natasha about Harry Connick Jr., how they've helped their urban farm/garden in Chicago. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the other experiences that Natasha has had the opportunity to experience, such as meeting Kelly Clarkson. So I hope you listen in for the next episodes. Thanks again.